I feel like when you want to decolonize your witchcraft practice, for me, the first thing to always remember is like the magic starts with you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Goddess Hangs.
Episode 69.
Ooh. I'm Sadie.
And I'm Juliet.
Obviously. And we have a very special guest with us on the podcast today. We have Melinda Lim, the legal witch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Sadie and Juliet. And on the 69th episode.
It's sexy. It's fun. We're going to have a great conversation today. We're so excited because it's such an interesting thing to have brought being a lawyer together with witchcraft. It is a little sexy, I have to say. Mm-hmm. So I think I just want to... Yeah, I think so. And I wanted to start by asking, like, I guess, what was your journey into witchcraft and then how it came to be a part of your legal practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think for like all of us that practice witchcraft, practice magic, that are intuitives, I feel like we've been doing it forever, right? Yeah. Like it's kind of one of those things where you're like, yeah, I was 5 and I was like casting spells in my garden.
Yes.
Right? Or like, I feel like when I was really little, I definitely felt really psychic. Like I felt like, you know, I would tell my parents, be like, oh, did you see that person last night? And they were like, what person? What are you talking about?
Yes.
And I think, you know, like I grew up watching Buffy. Like I think I've seen Practical Magic like a billion times. Like it's definitely one. I think we probably all tried that love spell she cast as like a little girl. And so when I was in high school, like I taught myself tarot. And then actually this is probably where like the legal part and the witch part intersect, is that I went to law school in New Orleans. And
wow.
Yeah, so it kind of just, I was already pretty witchy and then it got like really witchy, right? Because it's so normal and it's so celebrated in that city.
Yes.
And at the same time, I was like learning constitutional law and like making appointments to go get my cards read. And I think that when I started like my own business, I started off like teaching tarot and I had kind of like a revelation through, I work with Capitolia. I also work with Caitlin Matanley, which I feel like are people that a lot of witches work with because they're so wonderful. And it wasn't obvious to me. Like I think I even remember like in a coaching call being like, I'm a lawyer. I have these skills. I don't know how to use them in my business. And they both were like, you should just be a lawyer for witches.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like I should. And it's really fun. It's fun to like it's fun for me to make like the law witchy as fuck. Like it's fun to be like, let's make your trademarks like your sigils. Like let's cast your copyright spell. And I think like from maybe like a quote unquote like more serious space, like witches were always advocates for people, right? Always advocates, always healers for people, always there for people in their communities. And I feel like lawyers at like their highest expression when they're actually doing their job are advocates for people. And so I like to think of it as like, and I feel like there's so many businesses, so many people that I've been able to connect with where I'm like, you're doing such wonderful things. Like you deserve to be protected. Like you deserve to be like solidified as a business forever or for as long as you want to do this. And these are tools that are available to you. And if I can be the conduit for that, then I'm more than happy to support. So it was like definitely like a long journey, but it feels like a really good space to be in.
So what type of law did you study? Just because I know that there isn't currently like the witchcraft section.
I know.
There will be.
You'll be the professor soon.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, I could like teach about the Salem witch trials or something. When I was in law school, obviously like there's like very basic curriculum that you take. And then I became a trial lawyer actually, like after I graduated. And so I took a lot of like very practical skills, like litigation classes. I also took like a lot of like gender law and policy, gender and sexuality classes. Oh, it's funny because we're on 69th episode.
It's all on brand.
It's all on brand. So yeah, that's kind of like where I was and like what I found myself like, I used to work like at a private firm. which was, you know, now I think about like so like boring compared to like what I get to do now.
Yeah.
But definitely had like a very like normal like legal career. And then I actually do still have, I call it my muggle job, where I work in public service now. I don't work like for a firm, but it's interesting that like I do feel like there are things that I learned in law school that I still use in my business, because I think I teach a lot with things, and I feel like I speak a lot. And that's been really helpful.
I just think it's so brilliant, like the position that you've created and stepped into, because as a witch, as a mystic, it can feel very strange and intimidating to go to a quote unquote normal attorney, a normal accountant, because they're very confused by how you're earning your money. They might have a judgment about it.
Totally.
And I just think it's brilliant what you're doing. Like, we were so excited to have you here, because we also have so many witches and mystical goddesses in our community who are starting businesses and creating things, and you know, you will be such a light and a resource for them because you create this safe space. I think it's really special.
Oh, I love that. I appreciate that so much. I actually did. And when I like first started like my legal witch journey, I remembered like at the very, very beginning of my business, I had like normie lawyers like review a contract that I had written. And it was all about like a tarot course that I was going to teach. And I remember being in a room of, again, like very intimidating, very like, right, like all suits, all business, and trying to explain to them like what this was. And I thought like, wait, like I have a law degree, like I should not be intimidated by you.
Right.
And to think about like, if it was somebody who is just like removed from that environment, I was like, I don't want anyone to feel that alienated. Like, and I do think like to kind of like deepen into what you were saying, like when people come to me, like yesterday I had 3 one-on-one sessions, one with someone who does like plant medicine, one who is like the skin witch, like an esthetician, and then one who's a stripper. And I'm like, like none of these things are weird to me. I celebrate all of them. Like I love all the modalities you use. Like you don't need to explain to me what Akashic records are. I've had a reading. So it's fun to know that people feel really nurtured in that environment. That can be like very intimidating and very like closed off.
Luckily, you know, we're in a place where we feel really good about the place we are in our journey and what we're doing. We feel really confident. But if someone would have sort of given us that energy at the beginning of our journey, I think we probably would have felt silly and maybe been put down a little bit by that. So what are some of the tips you have for someone starting out in a business that maybe feels like totally overwhelmed by the sort of logistics of what it means to legally have a business? Do you have any sort of tips on how to embrace that side of it? Because it can be all fun and games to say, I'm ready to read tarot, I'm ready to be a healer. But then when you're like, oh shit, but I need to legitimize my business, that can get really overwhelming.
I think like the first thing that people can like embrace is that like you're not going to get punished for like not doing it correctly, right? Like I think that's a big thing I see is like even when people come to me for one-on-one just sessions, or they have like legal questions, or they're just like, I'm confused, help. I don't even have questions. I'm like, they feel like they need to have done homework, like and like research. I'm like, it's fine, like it's okay if you don't know, like you're not supposed to know. So like give yourself grace that it's not like nobody woke up and was like a CPA like automatically, right? Like you don't automatically know how to do your taxes. And you can start really small. I think there's like a misconception that like legal tools are only available to you if you have a lot of money or if you have a lot of resources. There's a lot of things that are actually like free. Like copyright is free. Like you don't need to do anything. You don't need to file it. Like if you have like a workbook that's part of your, you know, if you have a tarot course, or if you teach astrology, if you have like a workbook, or even if you're like a coach and you give like PDF files to your students, like that's covered under copyright. You don't need to do anything. You can like slap text on it that's like copyright of like goddess hangs, like belongs to us. You can even like a trademark isn't you can start using it and not pay to do it. Like you don't have to pay to register it right away. And so I think there are free tools. The only thing is like, you just need to take the time to understand how to use them and like where it's appropriate to use them, but they're available to everyone. And I'm a big believer in that, like, especially with the witchy space, like I'm sure like both of you have seen, like there's so many scam accounts. There's like a lot of like stealing that can happen, you know, whether that's consciously or unconsciously by people. And so for me, it's like, it's so important to protect your magic. And there are tools available to you, like in the law, that can make it so that I think of it as like grounding your protection spell, right? Like we're meeting your spell halfway in the earthly world by you using like legal tools. And you also, of course, like we all cast protection spells, I'm sure. But yeah, I think the biggest misconception is that you need to have thousands of dollars, and like actually like you don't. Like you can do things for free that will protect you now and will protect you like in the long run.
I love that. And I think it's also so helpful, like you're saying, to empower people that you can do a lot of these once you learn from whatever source, or hopefully once you teach this to people. They don't need the thousands of dollars. They don't need a business degree. They don't need a representative most times. Like it's very accessible. I think I was like copywriting my songs at like 18. Just go onto the website, you know? How hard could it be? It's one of those.
It's gonna be.
So I love that. Just sort of reframing it, because it is an intimidating looking world. And whenever I read a contract, they are intentionally made to be very difficult to comb through. By a layman. It's fascinating. The law is fascinating to me.
It really is.
This is a funny question. I don't know why I just thought of Judge Judy. I'm like, did you have any legal role models growing up?
Okay, I will say, when I was in law school, I definitely like binge watched Judge Judy, and I feel like she taught me evidence. Like, I feel like she taught me the rules of evidence. I'm just going to credit her. But when I was studying for the bar exam, I watched Legally Blonde like almost every other day. Like,
my favorite movie.
Literally, I was like, okay, this is the happy space. Like, it's gonna be fine. But yeah, love it. I haven't seen the musical. I know there's a Legally Blonde musical. I haven't seen it yet,
that's also on my to-do. That's funny, because we always say how hard could it be, but it's pulled from inspiration of like, what? Like, it's hard, you know?
Yeah.
You have to embody that Elle Woods energy to get through life if you want to create what you want to create. I really believe that.
She's like, there's no obstacles here. Like, obviously I'm going to Harvard. Like, what do you mean?
Divine delusion. If you think it's yours, it will find a way to be yours.
Oh my God, divine delusion. You should trademark divine delusion. That's great.
We were thinking about that. Yeah, we say that a lot.
We're going to chat after this call.
That is good. I mean, there are so many, and that's the other thing I think with like so many witches is that like, especially this community is so creative. Like there's so many fun things that people say, like so many fun phrases. Like I mentioned Capitolia earlier, but anytime Capitolia comes out with like a program, I'm like, please trademark that name. Like Witch and Famous, Witchfluencer, like these are amazing. And like everybody thinks of you. And I feel like that's so true of like so much of the community is like people are doing such like interesting things that no one's ever seen before. And they're so creative. And I feel like for me, I'm like, that's like even more of a reason for you to protect it and to make sure that everyone knows like this is yours and no one else can take it. And no one else can go to another person. Like they have to go to you to get that kind of magic.
I love that so much.
One of the things I know you're passionate about and that I was really excited to learn from you today is decolonizing your witchcraft, your practice, your business.
Totally.
Can you share that with us? Like what that means, what that looks like?
Yeah. I mean, I think so decolonization, right? Like on a definitive level also means like giving back land that like did not belong, right? It's giving back land to like Native people. I feel like decolonizing and anti-capitalism go together. I feel like when you want to decolonize your witchcraft practice, for me, the first thing to always remember is like the magic starts with you, right? Like your own intention, like your own whatever tradition like you feel good in, like whether that's something that is like part of your family or part of your line. I think the thing that I always think about is, especially now where it's so easy to buy, I didn't realize this, but like someone told me a while ago that you can buy altar boxes at Hot Topic, which just feels wrong.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
This feels odd.
I haven't been in there since I was a teen, I don't think.
I know.
Well, early 20s. I was there for a while, but...
Same. May browse their online store from time to time. I'm like, ooh. But I think, right, like the commodification of like witchy things is like not really the point, right? Like the point is like you can have an altar for free, like, right? Like you can go out and like go into nature, get things. You can be gifted. Like a bunch of the crystals I own were gifted to me by people. And I think it's really about like knowing what closed practices are, like what traditions don't belong to you, right? Like I know smoke cleansing and like smudging is a big thing and has been a big thing for a really long time. And there's like a long history of like white sage not being able, like it was not able to be used by like native cultures that gave us that, and it doesn't belong to us, right? Like your kitchen cabinet is the space where you can find things to smoke cleanse if you want to. You can burn rosemary. You can burn a lot of things. I think like decolonizing should always start with the idea of you don't want to do more harm to people, you don't want to do more harm to their ancestral lines, and that it's more powerful when the magic is yours, right? It's more powerful when you're the one that's like writing the intention, or you're the one that's going out and like, you know, whether you want to forage for herbs or whether you want to like have an herb garden or anything like that. I think like it doesn't only like, it benefits, of course, like other people that have been harmed like historically, but it also benefits you because again, right, like you don't need to do extra things to be magical.
Right.
Like, right. It's all about you. So,
I think, you know, I have so many people in my own audience that are coming to me to be like, I want to be a witch. What does it mean to be a witch? How do I start? And I really push like follow your intuition and just be really curious. And as you're learning, like maybe you're trying something and then you learn that that's not really something that's meant for you to partake in. That's okay. Like stop doing it, move on, keep learning, keep being curious, keep following what you're interested in. Because I think entering witchcraft, it can be intimidating because it's like, well, where do I belong and what am I supposed to do and where do I fit in? And so it's just like, no, just like keep listening to like what you're called to and be really curious and be really respectful, and you'll find your way, and it's going to feel really good when you don't buy a single book and follow it cookie cutter what it tells you you're supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's something really beautiful in the idea of like witchcraft as a tradition is unique to every single person who practices. Like there's something really beautiful about, you know, like we have a shared community and we, you know, a lot of us use the same tools, same modalities, but like our own journeys are like, unique, and they involve like, you know, different deities or different like spirits or different guides. I think there's so much freedom in that too, to take advantage of. I think people can get like in their own head of like, am I doing it correctly? Right. And I'm like, yeah, like, of course there are maybe there are certain things like, again, like don't go into closed practices, don't go into like certain traditions, but also don't feel as if there's like like we didn't all get like one book.
Right.
Study it. And then we graduated witch school.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we all got to go to witch school. That would be amazing.
Oh my God. Same. Still do.
I'm there when I get my letter that invites me. I'm there.
Yeah,
We've been waiting patiently.
I have been since my 11th birthday.
I was a little sad too. I was like, where's my letter?
I cried my whole 11th birthday. My mom was like, no. I don't know what to do with you. I genuinely thought I was going to get my Hogwarts letter. I was convinced. I was like, there's no way I'm not going to.
Sadie, what house would you be in if
Gryffindor.
You were
What house are you?
Ravenclaw.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Your blue background right now.
Yeah. Well, when I was getting like my brand grimoire done by another witch, they were like, I feel like it's like Dom Ravenclaw. And I was like, yeah,
love that.
I'm here for that. That feels correct.
What house are you, Juliet?
I've taken the test. The official test, and every time I get Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I always felt like a Gryffindor. And then when I was pretty young, they did some sort of museum thing in Chicago with all the like movie costumes and all this stuff, and I got picked to go sit underneath the sorting hat, and it yelled out Gryffindor, and so that was like the biggest moment of my life.
It's divine.
I was like, I know this is probably a random algorithm, but I'm taking it.
No, it's not. Nothing is random.
It's not. And then all the quizzes, I've also been Gryffindor too. Trust me, I've taken all of them.
It's so fun. Yeah, I mean, we're all waiting.
We're all waiting.
So we're talking about witchcraft is individual. It can look different for every single person. There's like no wrong way to do it as long as you're being respectful.
Yeah.
What are like snapshots of your witchy life? Like what are some rituals, routines, deities? Like I want to know.
I mean, I have like so many altars in my house, like tiny little altars for everything. I am a devotee to Aphrodite. So I talk to Venus a lot, like every day, especially right now, because I feel like she's like finally moving into her sign of exaltation as we're recording this. She's finally moving into Pisces. I've been calling it, I saw it on Twitter. I was like, someone was saying, oh, it's going to be Venus's hoe period. And I'm like, yes, we all want this. We all want Venus to have a hot girl summer because we all want to benefit from this.
Here we are, episode 69, entering our hoe phase.
Venus and Pisces, her hoe phase.
Yes.
So yeah, I have a like devotional practice to Venus. I also am a believer in like magic doesn't have to be like really big. Like, I mean, it doesn't have like ritual. I think big ritual can be very, very intimidating, especially for people that are practicing. They're like, I don't have all the things. And I'm like, you don't need to have all the things. You could literally have like a Bath and Body Works candle. It's fine. Like, no God or goddess is going to judge you. Like, I don't think they would anyway. But for me, because I'm devoted to Aphrodite, like I don't work on Friday, like at all. Cause I'm like, no, I feel like Venus doesn't want me to like be in labor. She's like, just exist and like have a good time. I buy her flowers every Friday and I take a really long bath that I do. Like I do like a whole thing where I like light incense and light candles and I just sit there and just enjoy myself and like have a glass of wine in the bathtub. And I feel like that can be magical, right? Like that's Venusian.
Yes.
But I don't have like, huge candles. Like I've done, I'm sure we've all have like done like ritual with like a lot of candles. There's definitely been wax explosions that have happened. So if you are listening, caution on doing
or at your own risk.
At your own risk.
Yeah, be careful. Make sure your fire is safe. But I try to incorporate like, because I'm devoted to her, like every day I try to incorporate something like Venusian that I try to dedicate to her. Whether that's like saying like the Orphic hymn or like putting like honey in my tea and like thanking her. That's like definitely like a daily snapshot of my life. Yeah. And I work with like the planetary hours. So like if it's her hour during the day, I'll try and do it on that time to honor her. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, that's what I always tell people. I'm like, being a witch is just finding magic in the mundane. It's not really like waking up and casting a spell. Like making your tea is casting a spell, and journaling in the morning is casting a spell, and going for your walk or whatever. It's like, it's just being more aware of how you move through the day. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. The intention behind like your activities, totally. And I think it becomes less intimidating when you realize that. Yeah. And I feel like you can also develop like a more regular practice, because I think what can happen sometimes with people that like enter witchcraft is they get really overwhelmed by the idea of like, oh my God, I have to do this all the time. And like takes a lot of energy. And I'm like, your face mask at the end of the day, that can be magical. Like you're taking care of yourself. You can dedicate that to Venus if you wanted to. Totally. It doesn't have to be like intimidating or like impossible, or I guess even like inaccessible.
Yeah, totally. I think most of the magic that goes on is just me thinking my thoughts while I'm doing stuff.
Yeah.
I am curious how Aphrodite and you began your relationship. Was there a dream?
Yeah.
Was it like because I feel like I've had a couple come to me, but I haven't committed back to them yet. I think they're just waiting.
Yeah, I think it's different with like every deity. I do also have, so I'm a Libra rising, so she rules my chart. And so I think that you know, like she's just present. And there was a time, like, I think it was last summer, I had a dream and she was in my dream, but she was like behind me. I couldn't see her. Like she wouldn't show her face. And I felt like she was flirting with me, which now that I talk to other people who are like devotees of Venus Aphrodite, like they're like, oh yeah, like she's like flirting with you. And then it was weird because I was like, I don't know how to do this except say that like I feel like I'm dating a goddess and like that's like where we are. Like we're just getting to know each other. And then I became good friends with an astrologer who has like an exalted Venus, like, so Venus in Pisces, like at the exaltation degree. So very, very Venusian. And I was talking to them and I was talking about like, oh, you know, like I have like a planetary practice with Saturn, which is obviously a very different energy. And they were like, not pushing in a bad way, but they were like, you're also a Libra rising, like Venus rules your chart. Like, I think she might be mad at you. Like if you're not like devoted to her. And so I just slowly started to be like, hey, like, I feel like we had this moment and I didn't really nurture this relationship. This now makes me sound like a fuckboy where I'm like trying to come back and be like, girl, I'm sorry. And so then I just started like bringing her offerings like on Friday and I would just talk to her about my life. And I still do that. Like, I'm kind of like, hey, you know, like went on a date with this guy, really like him, would really like your help, like even stuff like that, where it's like, right, that's Venusian. And try to just be like really aware of her presence and like also aware of like how, yeah, I'm just, yeah, right. Yeah. Like just to make sure that like treating her right. It sounds so strange to be like, yeah.
Like you're dating. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Wait, so Julia, I'm interested. Like, have you had like deities that you've like come in and be like, hey, we're interested in you. And you're like, I'm not ready to commit. Probably.
So I had a moment with a Guinevere who I don't know enough. Like it was like she's the one who came to me and said, you're going to be like a fairy goddess. And like, that's your new job. Ooh. Like stop focusing so much on the music and like do it all. Yeah. So I felt like a Guinevere and then I felt Sebastian, who then I looked up and apparently that's the one, the Saint Sebastian is the protector, like when there's a plague. So I guess when the pandemic started, so many people around the world were like praying to Saint Sebastian, and he sort of popped it, and it was, I don't know. But the other one, the Guinevere, like hovers. But I need to begin flirting back.
Yeah. She just wants your attention. She wants you to reciprocate. I think it's different with like with like having a planetary practice or like with every, like if you work with deities. Like I know people who work with Hecate and like they feel like that she's going to reveal themselves and then they see like a black dog and that's like an omen, right? Is like, oh, she's here, which is really powerful. But I do feel like, yeah, like I feel like they kind of like choose you. Like I feel like it's like, they're like, okay, I'm here now. Like you need to be talking to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry that I wasn't earlier.
So, okay, you said you're a Libra rising. Mm-hmm. Tell us the other two or as many as you want.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a Capricorn sun. I have a Capricorn stellium, which I guess makes sense because I'm like literally out here trying to like teach you structures for your business so you can build a legacy. And I'm a Gemini moon.
Ooh, what a combo.
Yeah. I have a pretty strong Gemini moon placement. And like, I know, like, I feel like Geminis get a really bad rap, but I like a lot of people in my life are Geminis. I think that's because I have a Gemini moon. And we just, just chatty. Like, if you ever get really long voice notes, I swear that person has very strong Gemini placements.
It's funny. My boyfriend's a comedian and he's a Gemini. And when I first met him, it was his birthday. And then it was like all of his friends' birthday. And I realized that like all comedians are Geminis. And I think it's because there's this duality where like you can sort of like see two sides to things and that's funny. But I love Geminis because you guys are hilarious.
Yeah,
and they're like very quick, right? Like they're very quick to respond. Yeah, they're very fast. So my Gemini moon is pretty loud. But my Capricorn placements are really loud too. Like, that makes sense. Yeah.
Balance each other a little bit, I feel like.
Balance each other. Well, and I like in astrology, right? Like Saturn exalts like in the sign of Libra. So in my chart, I'm like, oh, I feel like Saturn's just taking his orders from Venus, and that feels better. I'm like, that feels good that she's the one that's like, okay, but hold on, like, you got to go through me before you tell her what to do. Yeah.
I like that.
So aside from, we have Venus's hot girl summer approaching.
Yeah. Thank God.
We're ready.
How's that going to feel and look like, perhaps? And then are there any other astrological events coming up that you're very excited about?
I mean, I think my Venus is not in Pisces. My Venus is in Aquarius, which is like an interesting placement for me because it's like ruled by Saturn. So I feel like we just had this Saturn-Venus conjunction. And I don't know if y'all saw this. I saw it on Twitter where the meme was like, the pictures of when, I can't believe I mentioned this, the pictures of when Nicole Kidman divorced Tom Cruise. Yes. And she's like out in the street, like when she's leaving her like lawyer's office, they were like, this is Venus leaving Saturn, like so happy.
Okay.
So Venus and Pisces, I feel like we're all just going to feel like more creative, like more artistic, just more free, like more sociable. Like it feels like it's like, I feel it's like, Venus wants to go and like skinny dip in the ocean. Like she's just like ready to live her life. In terms of like astrological events that are happening, I mean, I'm like, we're in Aries season. I tend to like, it's where the sun is exalted. So it feels good to like be out and about like in the world again, you know? Like, I feel like when we moved after the equinox, like into Aries season, I feel like, I don't know if y'all felt this way. I felt like January, February, and like March were like, walking through mud. I was like, this is hard.
Yeah,
like,
a little bit.
Yeah, it was hard. So it feels like a little bit now that like the transits feel more supportive, at least in good, fun ways.
I've definitely felt creativity flowing much easier in the past couple of days. It's made a big difference. So, because I was feeling very stuck in the mud for a while.
Yeah, I felt really heavy.
I remember was it either the end of the year or January, we sat down and we both had this very strong feeling about like March, like end of March, April.
Oh yeah, I think I wrote in my journal about 1 million times that April was going to be a turning point. And we don't really follow the big astrological events. Neither of us like really read into that too much. We like to learn from our guests and stuff. So we didn't know that at the time, but that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Aries season, and like Mercury moved into Aries and it was in Pisces. My friend who's an astrologer was describing to me Mercury in Pisces. It's like, Mercury's drunk. Like he can't do what he needs to do. He just needs to move into Aries. And I was like, is that why I feel like I can't communicate? There is an event at the end of April that Venus will conjunct Jupiter, and they're both like benefic planets. They're both like, right, like Jupiter's all about abundance and like all of the like, and like riches and wealth and like all the good things. And Venus is very much, right, like beauty and art and creativity. And so they'll be like very close to each other at the very end of April. So it'll be like a wonderful mixture of all of the good things like in the universe. So I know that's like a thing that people have been talking about, but I think it's also on an eclipse. So I don't know if either of you have like very strong reactions when an eclipse happens. I like can't sleep when there's an eclipse. Like it ruins my sleep cycle. I don't know why that is.
I can't sleep on full moons, but I don't recall if eclipses have bothered me. Sometimes I don't take notice, but definitely full moons, I'm up all night.
Oh, same. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I never have insomnia. I fall asleep quickly. Same. I sleep 10 hours if I want to. Full moons, I'm like, I can't.
Same. I'm like, right. I'm like, what is this? Like, I like literally, and then I'm really tired during new moons. Like new moons, I'm just like,
yeah, me too.
I would like to go to bed early now. Yeah, what is that? What is that?
I don't know.
On full moons, I just cry, and I don't really cry much these days.
Well, it's good. It's a good time to release. So and that
then
makes
I just
sense.
let it out.
Yeah,
when that moon gets full.
I cry a lot all the time. That's just me. It's not always sad. Don't worry about me. It's a lot of happy tears too.
Do you have like really strong Pisces placements?
I don't have any Pisces placements.
Really?
I don't know why I cry all the time. I don't have a lot of water. I actually am a lot of fire.
Interesting.
She's a tender flame.
I'm a tender flame.
Tender flame.
Yeah,
I know. I have
earth
a couple
and
of
fire.
friends. Earth and fire. Oh yeah. That makes sense. I have a bunch of friends who have like really strong Pisces placements, and they're like you, Juliet, where they're like, I'm going to schedule, not that you do this, but like they want to schedule crying on the full moon. They're like, I'm going to be in the tub excuse me, like crying. And I'm like literally sitting in the tub crying in your own tears. Like, God, no, such a stereotypical Pisces move to just be like, I'm just going to drown here crying on the full moon.
Yeah, I'm able to push it. I'm like, this is not a good time. Because whenever I cry, I get like a horrible headache because I'm just, and the tension. So I'm like, no, I can hold this until another day or so.
You're like checking to see what the moon cycle is right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just 3 more days until I can have, I don't sob and cry. I just emit tears often, Like I was watching, I don't know if you all watched the Atom Project yet, the new movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Is it
Mark
emotional?
Well, I got emotional at the end. We were talking about this the other week. Every movie now has you don't realize until you have a dead parent that every movie's has a dead parent in it. That's like how they get you hooked into the emotional part. And there's a dead parent theme in this movie. And my mom passed away. And it's been a while, but it just always hooks me. But it was happy tears because I was happy because it's a time travel movie. And
that's cute. Well, now that makes me realize like every Disney movie, there's always like it's only one parent, right?
Every movie. Yeah. Like when I went through everything at first and my mom passed away, like I was like, oh my God, I can't watch fucking anything. It's like everything has this theme. What is going on? You don't realize it until it's something that like triggers you, and you're like, holy shit, this is how they get you. But
I remember when they were advertising Frozen and all the billboards were a snowman and a reindeer. Like they didn't even put the girls on and I was like, oh, I'm going to go see a fun movie about a snowman and a reindeer. And then 5 minutes into the movie, the parents die on a ship and it's this whole coming of age story. And I mean, it's a great Disney movie, but it's still like, did they like could the movie have happened without the parents tragically drowning? Like,
apparently not.
Apparently
not.
I feel like every Disney movie is like a tragic like parent story.
It is.
Right?
Bambi's mom, goodbye.
King, Bambi, Finding Nemo. Having such tragedy with parents. What is that?
When I was little, I always had this fear that like both my parents were gonna die in a car crash, or like I always had this like thing in my head that I was gonna be an orphan someday because I think of those movies. Everything convinced you that was it is a very real possibility for everyone, but it's not likely. You're more than likely gonna have your parents growing up.
It's true. Disney just out here causing inner child trauma.
That could be a whole business in itself, is healing from Disney inner child trauma.
Oh my God, someone out there listening, do that.
Yes. Got to talk to Amanda. Maybe they can play around with that. That would be fun.
Yeah. Amanda could do like a whole set of reels. They totally should. That'd be funny.
I feel like that would be fun and on brand. Mental note.
Poor Bambi.
Poor Bambi.
What a violent way. Okay, let's not get into it.
It's okay.
We all have a cry here together.
Except for me. I'm not scheduled yet for that.
Right, you've got like you've got like 2 more weeks because I think the new moon's on Friday. We've got
Friday, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So let me think. What do I want to know about you? Ooh. Who are some of your mentors? Who are some mystical or magical or practical people, aside from Judge Judy, that you just love and look up to? Or any books you'd recommend, or just, anything.
Yeah. So I am like, I do work with Capitolia, as I talked about earlier, and Caitlin Matanley, both witches who work with witches in business, who are amazing people. My first coach, Samara Kasai, they're wonderful. They do like, they do a lot of like healing work, a lot of like reclaiming what it means to like manifest. Like I find them to be really, really wonderful. I'm trying to think if there's like any book I read that like Kristen Soleil has written a ton of books that I think she's also at Capricorn now that I think about it, if I remember correctly. She wrote like The Witch Hunt. She wrote Cat Call, like all very like feminist perspective, all very witchy. And I think she actually used to teach a course on witchcraft, like at the New School in New York. Her career is amazing to me. I'm like,
so
oh my God. Yeah. And she's a cat mom and I have a cat and I'm like, oh my God. And you're a Capricorn. Can I?
I actually used my cat mom mug today because one thing I really like about Melinda's Instagram is that I think on Sundays or Saturdays,
I do like a cat
Catterday. She posts tons of cat videos on her stories. So everyone make sure you're following for that sole reason right there.
Oh my
and then
God.
the legal witch stuff is extra. I'm a huge fan.
So happy. Well, like it got to the point where that makes me so happy. Anytime, like I now have people that follow me, but like I've never interacted with, like on Instagram, like they've never DM'd me before, and they will just DM me cat videos, like just no context. You made it. Yeah, like no caption. They just know I would like it, and I appreciate it so much. It got to like the height of it. I used to do like a cat TikTok like dump on like Saturdays, like tons of cat videos. I do it like a little bit now, to the point where it was happening so much. I like did a story about it where I was like, I love that I am your witchy internet lawyer cat lady that you just like send cat things to, and that you know that like I worship my cat. Like that's very much part of my life. But yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I still get them. It's interesting where I'm like, oh, I love this. It's like, thank you for thinking of me. But yeah, I would recommend like all of Kristen Soleil's books. Because I'm a lawyer too, like thinking about this, like I love witches who also do like the quote unquote, like more left brain side of things, like when it comes to business. And I'm a big fan of Jessie Susanna, who is the Money Witch on Instagram. And her book just came out called Money Healing. And she's so dope because like, I'm pretty sure she was like a former stripper and she's a CPA and she's a practicing witch. Like, and like she had, like even her programs are really cool and like really supportive. Like I'm in her, she's like I think it's called Bad Bitch Tax Club, where like every quarter you like sit with her and a bunch of like other people and go through your taxes together and like go through your accounts, like make sure you can like file on time. And it's such a space where like, and she's anti-capitalist, which I love. And so it's such a space that feels like healing, particularly around money, because like money stuff can be so triggering, right? And like as a business where you're like, oh my God, like I don't even know what to do, like what's going on. And so I really love her because I feel like it's such a resource, particularly for people in our community that have businesses, right? To feel supported and to know that like you don't have to be afraid of money, that it can be a space where like you feel really powerful. So those are I think those are my like people that I think about.
I love that. I love, we were actually talking in our, we're coaching a Quantum Goddess program right now, bringing people's visions to life, a lot of businesses in there. And there's a lot of questioning around like, well, I'm this and I'm this, so which one do I choose? Or like people think a lot of times things that seem like maybe polar opposites means you have to separate those things. And something that I think you're doing so well is like, not a lot of people would think that like a lawyer would be connected to witchcraft. And we were just talking about like, yes, you can be this and you can be this. And actually when you combine things that don't seem right now like they go together because you have some sort of like conditioning going on, that's actually what makes you so interesting and so special, and why the right people will find you is when you and those things and bring them together.
I think it's really powerful, and I think that's like it's something that people like should be reminded of all of the time, because I think too, like we were talking about like the quote unquote like right way to be a witch, right, like earlier, like the idea that you have to fit into a box is actually like prohibiting you from being like, to also just like feeling fulfilled by like what you want to do. And I mean, again, right, like I have multiple Capricorn placements, like just on a practical level, like when I like became the legal witch, when I like rebranded and that was like the thing I was going to step into, I made the most money that way. Like, cause it was like people knew how I could support them and how I could help them. And it felt really good for me to be in that space. But like, I think there is like this strange conditioning of like, oh, I can only be like one thing and particularly like in our community, because I'm like, but you probably do like a ton of different things, like, and they can all go together and complement each other, right? Like, and I think it's always dope when I see that. Like when I worked with a client yesterday, like she's a life coach, she's a breakup coach, she has a podcast, and she's a stripper. and she's a writer. I'm like, yeah that's
all of
amazing.
it.
Like, do all of the things.
That's what makes you so cool and interesting, is when you do all of the things you really want to do. Another thing I wanted to ask about, because I think even I am like working on wrapping my brain around like the concept of, you know, anti-capitalism, and then also believing that I myself and everyone deserves to make a lot of money and be abundant and be rich witches. So how do those things go together?
Yeah, so I think anti-capitalism, for me, like at the heart of it is that like you should never have to prove like that you're worth something, right? Like you are inherently worthy because you are alive, you are breathing, and that in order, like I like, again, I'm back to the fact that I have a Capricorn stellium that's really loud. Like, I really love making money. Like I love making money, talk about it. And I believe like the way that I think about making money is like, I never want to exploit anyone to make it, right? Like I currently am a solopreneur, like dream one day, can't wait to have like a team, but want to do it in a way, right, where if I had people working for me, that they can be like very resourced, that they would feel like supported, like whether in money, in benefits, in time. And I think it also is like a journey into figuring out your relationship to labor, right? Like, do you feel like you always need to push? Like, I think about this all the time. Like when I think about like even like decolonizing like my business practices, I'm like, there's no reason I need to work 8 hours a day. Like if I really wanted to, like, I could, right? Like, but especially like in a world where we like glorify like the grind, right? The hustle, like, you know, especially like, I mean, coming from my early legal career, right? Like the more hours you worked, the better lawyer you were, which like not true, like surprisingly not true. And I think it's like to really like think about and become anti-capitalist is like, yeah, like are you working in a way that is also supporting you? Like, and are you also like supporting others who are working with you? And to not, right, it's to make sure that everyone is resourced, right? Like we're not like hoarding things, and to like figure out like your relationship to labor, like, which is one of the reasons why, like I don't work on Friday. I mean, I think Venus would like shut me out if I tried to work on a Friday, but like I don't work on a Friday. I don't work on weekends. Like, and I think like when I do things like even in my business, I never come from a space of like, oh, I want to make a lot of money, even if like the investment's really high, right? Like even if it is like a higher ticket item to work with me, like I always want to come through like in service. And I think that's something even like on a practical level for if anyone's listening who has like is a witch who also has their own business, it never, at least for me, it's like never worked to try to put something out that I didn't fully believe would like benefit people, right? Like if you're only doing it for the money, like it's not going to sell. Like particularly as someone, right, as people who are like very intuitive, very aligned in energy. So, you know, I think like it can be weird or maybe even uncomfortable to like think about work differently, but that is like, it's so important, right? Because again, like you shouldn't have to exhaust yourself to make money, like what feels really good. And to remember too, right? Like I think Jessie Susanna, the money witch I was talking about earlier, she talks about this where she was like, money loves you. Like money wants to keep you like resourced. It wants you to like be healthy and like get the things that you want. And so you can love money and also like know that the way to get it is to not like exploit people for their labor at the same time. And yeah, we should all be rich. We should all be wealthy. Big
Thank
believer
you for
in
that explanation, because sometimes I'm just like, I think it just depends on the posts I see about it or something, and maybe the message just isn't coming across the right way, or people probably have different beliefs about it, what it means to them too. So sometimes I feel like it can be a contradicting thing, but the way you describe it, it's actually like the highest alignment to abundance, because of course that's how we should make our money, is for our highest good and the highest good of all. So I love that so much.
Absolutely. And that everyone can have, like, I keep thinking about like, you know, examples like in my business and just in my life where I'm like, there are times where I've made a lot of money, just like passive income, and I wasn't doing anything. Right. And that's like the opposite of capitalism, right? Is like, I just, like I had a 10K month, but I didn't launch anything because I just had like payment plans and passive income that came in. And that is like, I think like, I'm not like, even like I'm not self-exploiting myself, right? Like I'm not pushing myself so far to like make more money and to like, I think that's an important thing when we think about like capitalism is like, are you just doing it because you feel like you have to, or, you know, and that's different. Like if you're like in survival mode, but you know, like you don't need to exhaust yourself and all of your resources in order to make money.
I second what Sadie said. I've also tried to wrap my head around it, and it's been like, no matter what I read, it confuses me in some way.
Sure.
But this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because money is not evil. I think that's the thing that I feel like people like, they're like, oh, well, if I'm anti-capitalist, then I like have to like never have money. And I'm like, no, you just have to like stop exploiting people to get money. You could get to have a lot of money, but yeah, it's how you do it and like the integrity you have behind it, right? Yeah, I think the conflation between like anti-money and also anti-capitalism, like that doesn't really make any sense. Like we also live in a world where we're like we have bills to pay, like
right. And like money allows us to have fun and freedom and safety. Yeah. And I'm really excited for the day that like I had so many awful bosses. I can't wait to be the best boss in the world. We have one person that helps us with the podcast. And it's just like that excites me, is to be able to be like, you know, I'm not going to underpay you and I'm not going to overwork you. And we're going to have a great relationship where we communicate. Like, I can't wait to do all of those things. So I guess I am anti-capitalist. I wasn't sure before.
Yeah. And I think too, right? Like that's such a like, it's such a shared experience of like so many people like in our generation of like bad bosses, right? And like trying to figure out and like recalibrate what it means like when we're in those positions. And like, yeah, like if I like whenever I have like a team, like you're not going to work on a Friday either, even if you're not devoted to Venus, because I'm not working on a Friday. Like,
yeah, and like I don't want to hear from you.
I don't. Let's just be off. Yeah, and like and thinking of, I feel like something I think about all the time is I'm like work into like the traditional sense, right? Is like such a huge part of our days, but like it shouldn't be, right? Like I don't want to exist to work all the time.
I've been really practicing, because it is hard. Like I love my work. I love working, but I'll find myself sitting at my desk here at home a lot longer than I need to because of some sort of just conditioning of like, well, I meant to stay here until like 4 or 5 and I don't need to, like, and I'm just like kind of putzing around, and I'm like, Sadie, shut your computer and go do something you want to do. Like, I'm not having a bad time, but I'm just like, it's hard to break that cycle, break that habit of just like, I don't need to be here right now.
It is. I think it's really hard when like you start your own business too. Like I think the thing I'm always aware of is like, I don't want to recreate the thing I'm like leaving, right? Like I don't want to recreate like a 9 to 5. Like what if I can just like wake up and be happy and like, and doing things like even now, like as I transition, like I'm planning on leaving my like 9 to 5 job like in May. And I'm like, okay, what habits can we like install now? And like, I've been like taking baths like in the middle of the day. Because I'm like, well, that would seem fun. And that makes sense for me.
I love
like, that. And like not being restricted. I mean, I love a bath. I feel like witches all love baths.
We love a bath. We love being the potion.
Oh, I love that.
Trademark. No,
yeah, I mean, like there's like merch idea of like love being in the potion.
Love being the potion. I am the potion. Affirmation.
Oh my God. I love that. You should definitely make merch with that. That's so cute.
Done. This is our
great. Welcome to the merch meeting.
Our next project. Well, is there any like
spooky story?
Oh yeah, we like to ask everyone.
Ooh, spooky story.
A spooky, doesn't have to be spooky scary, but you know, like a ghost story, a psychic experience.
I mean, when I lived in New Orleans, there were like a lot of like weird things that always happened. Like, I feel like, I mean, haunted houses everywhere. I will say, so there is, have either of you watched American Horror Story Coven?
No, but I was just in New Orleans and I saw,
the house.
The house, yeah.
Yeah. So there is there's like the antagonist in the show, it's actually based on like a true story. It's like this family who like lived in the French Quarter, and she like did terrible experiments on like the enslaved people that worked for her. It's terrible. Yeah. That house is real in the French Quarter, and I always got like really bad it felt really bad to be around that house. And so I would like literally like walk like all the way like around like miss that block, and come to find out that like, this is a weird story. It used to be owned by Nicolas Cage.
Yes, I went on a tour and we stopped by the house and we heard all about this. Yeah, tell the story.
Yeah, so he bought this house. Yeah, so Julia, he bought this house. He didn't know anything about this house, and this house has had like haunted stories forever. There's one story where before it became a single family home again after the remodel, it used to be like an apartment building, and like there were like a couple of apartments, like maybe like 5 or 6, and the people who lived there would report that they would have the same nightmares like on the same night. And it was about these like crazy like human experiments that would happen like because there's clearly like trauma, right? It's like imprinted trauma. So they'd have the same nightmares, and he didn't know this, and he like went on the tour and he learned about his house. And he like never spent the night there. He just like, cause he was so freaked out about it. He has like a New Orleans like obsession. He like used to live, like he owned a house near like Anne Rice also there. He also has like a grave there where he wants to be buried. Yes. Like in one of the cemeteries.
You know what? I respect that.
I know. Yeah, I'm here for that planning. But that house is like really, really strange. There is so one spooky story about like the French Quarter when I was walking home like one night, and I was pretty drunk, but like I was like walking to get a cab, and I heard screaming inside of Jackson Square, but it's locked at night. And it used to be the place where they would like punish people for crimes. Like they would like flog you or like do like crazy things to you for crimes. And I mentioned it to someone like the next day. This is when I was in law school, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like it's like super haunted, like to the point where if people call the cops because they hear screaming, they won't come because it's just like ghosts screaming." And I was like, "What?
Oh, that's so freaky."
It's so weird.
Oh
and
gosh.
It's beautiful, and it's like in front of like chapel, like it's a beautiful, and during the day like you can go sit there.
Yeah, I was literally there like last month or 2 months ago.
Yeah, and I remember hearing screaming and being like, "There's no one in there though." And yeah, that was weird. Yeah.
Ooh. Ooh.
Spooky.
Yeah, New Orleans is super haunted. Super spooky.
It is.
Sadie, did you see, Sadie, any like houses that were for sale that on the for sale sign it also said haunted? Because that
no, I didn't see that.
That happens with some houses in the French Quarter where they just like want to let you know that like you're gonna get a roommate. You're gonna get a roommate when you buy this house.
What we did, I'm like sold. Well, as long as it's a nice haunting,
right? A nice.
But I did do a walking tour that was called "Bad Bitches of New Orleans," so it was really interesting, and it was part like bad bitches in a like uplifting way, and part bad bitches like evil bad bitches. It was fun to have both. So it was interesting because we went and heard about all sorts of hauntings. So that was really fun.
That's really fun. I want to do that when I go there. I haven't done that. I didn't go on like a haunted house tour while I was there because I was like, I don't need to know. Like that's a lot. Like,
yeah, if you're living there. And I feel like when you live somewhere, there's no sense of urgency to do touristy stuff. And then you're like, oh, wait, now I don't live there. I should have, you're like, oh, I should have done some of that stuff.
Bad bitches. That's fun, though. Was there like one bad bitch that stood out to you during the tour?
So I'm so obsessed with learning about Marie Laveau now.
Oh,
I bought her book when I was there. We went to her shop. I really love Marie Laveau. And then there was this one hotel that was so interesting that I can't remember, but it used to be a brothel, and the madam still haunts it. And this brothel was famous for like if any of the men mistreated like the woman there, like they came out to the madam and complained, she would say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, like go back, get yourself a free drink." And then she would get all the women to come out and beat his ass.
Yeah, that's a real bad bitch.
She knew that he was abusing, and so now there have been reports of couples staying at this hotel, and if it's a man that is abusing their partner in any which way, whether it's physically or emotionally, the madam will like hurt them. Because our tour guides would tell this story and say, out of speculation. And then she had a woman that said, actually, I stayed there with my ex-husband and I went out to dinner by myself because we had a fight and he refused to come, and she came home and he was like sludged against the wall, and there was like something that was up on a cupboard that had fallen that had hit him in the head.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I was like, holy shit. So if anyone's questioning if they they should stay with their man, well, if you're questioning if someone's abusive, probably leave, but take them to this hotel first, freak them out.
Yeah, freak them out.
So that was my favorite like location.
That's
and I want to stay there.
Fun story. Yeah, I want to stay there too.
But no women have ever experienced
her presence.
Her presence. She just is concerned with the bad men, which is cool.
Oh my God.
Like, her work continues.
Maybe whenever y'all do like a live podcast, you can do it at that hotel.
That would be cool. Yeah. Yes. New Orleans would be a great place.
We have to figure that out.
Yeah. We also like to ask everyone that comes on, what does being a goddess mean to you? Because we're goddess hangs here. We love, and of course, Venus, Aphrodite, very goddess energy.
Yeah. Being a goddess for me means not being afraid of my own power and like relishing in it and using it in a way that's like in my integrity. And it just means, I feel like it means that I get to be supported. I get to feel abundant, and there's no shame behind that.
Perfect answer.
Felt so good.
Yes.
And what are some ways that our followers can stay in touch with you, possibly work with you? I think you just opened something really exciting.
I did. I opened something yesterday. I opened the Legal Witch Library. When I was like thinking about it, I was thinking about that moment in Beauty and the Beast when like Belle goes to the library and sees all the books. It was like that. And I was like also Scholastic Book Fair that like
highlight of my little life.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So the Legal Witch Library is like a evergreen offering. It is like it'll grow over time, but right now I have like 2 trainings in there for, business witches, business mystics, business intuitives. The first one is, so you started a business, now what? And it literally is just like the foundational things you need to know when you start a business, how to be like legally compliant. And then the other training is Trademark Your Magic, where I'll give you like a crash course on how to develop like a dope, like brand trademark that'll be your sigil for you and your business. And then I do Legal Witch office hours or one-on-ones. If you have like specific questions that you want me to answer, you can come. You don't, even if you don't have a question, you're just like, Melinda, I have a business, I'm confused, help. Like I can totally help do that with you. And if you're wanting to work with me, like on a higher level of like, if you need contracts drafted or you just need like legal language for like your coaching services or anything like that, like I can also do that for you. I do that on like a limited basis. So I don't talk about it all the time, but happy to mention it here. But those are the ways to work with me right now. Would love to support any biz witches who are listening.
We have so many, and they're going to be so excited to have you as a resource now. I'm excited that they're all excited listening right now. Yeah. And where do we find you on social media, your website?
Yeah, you can go to @themelindalim.com, and then my link tree is in my bio there, and you'll have all the links to all the ways to find me and work with me. And come hang out in my stories, and I post about cats if you're into that too. Literally, free cat content.
I'll meet you there. I'll be there.
Yeah. It's also really witchy to have a cat. I feel
it is.
It's very witchy. Okay. I will say, Sadie, one of the things you posted one time that I love that I still think about is like you were saying something like, "I'll never know my cat's birth chart," and that's something that haunts me. And I'm like, I think about that all the time. I'm like, same. I don't know her big 3.
I know Boo's birthday, but Mr. Cat, no idea. We don't even know how old he is. We've been saying he's 7 for like 3 years. We don't know. He could be 5. He could be 10. We don't know. But Boo is a Capricorn, but I don't know the other things that she is. But it's okay. We get along great. What's your cat's name?
Fizzy, like champagne is fizzy. I adopted her during Cancer season, but she acts like a Leo. So I go with the fact that she's a Leo, but I will never know. I never know her birth chart because she's adopted, which is sad. But
I know. I'm like, I want to know you on the deepest levels.
I know.
child.
I want to be really intimate. I want to know. Let me run your chart.
I also look at my cats and I'm like, I don't know how I could possibly, like, if I give birth to a child, I don't know how I could possibly love it more than I love my cats. It's unfathomable to me because I look at them and I want to cry. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to be a mother of a human child because I can't even handle being the mother of a cat. It's too much.
That's when you know you're like, it's real love. That's when you're a real cat person.
We're soulmates.
We love.
Well, is there any final words of wisdom you want to share with the witches listening?
I think, like if you're listening and you want to start a witchcraft practice, do it. We need your magic. Like, honor your magic. And if you're a biz witch and you're like, you got some dope idea and you're worried and you're scared about like, what about the legal stuff? Like, do it. Like, we need you to like be out here serving people, sharing your gifts. And there are resources for you along the way. And I'm happy to help if I can.
Well, thank you so much. This was so fun to get to know you better. And I'm so excited for our listeners to get to know you as well.
Oh my gosh, thank you. You were on our list of dream guests. So we're so happy that you took the time to hang out with us.
Yes, I loved hanging out with you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, that was such a fun conversation with Melinda. And before we go, we just wanted to remind you of a few things we have available for you. Goddesses, it's the beginning of the month, and you know what that means.
There's no better time to join the Goddess Hangs BFF Patreon.
Are you ready to join 70 plus other goddesses in the most fun, magical, transformative, uplifting group on Discord that you've ever seen?
I'm already in it.
Me too!
Come hang out with us. We'll give you the warmest welcome you've ever experienced in your life. You will get to share little things in your day. Anything from as sweet as, here's the outfit I'm wearing today, here's what my cat is doing right now, here's a recipe I made last night, to, oh my gosh, I worked with this, is it deity or deity?
I think you can say both. Okay. I don't know.
I worked with this deity. I cast this spell. Does anybody have a resource for this? We have a book club.
I had this weird dream last night. What do you think it means?
We have an astrology section. We have a meme land. There's so much fun rooms to explore in our online goddess mansion. You are going to meet the most beautiful, wonderful, magical people you've ever met. And I'm obsessed with this group chat. I'm in it every day, all the time. Sometimes I think, should I like give the girls some space? Do they like hearing from me this much? And I hope you all do.
Of course they do.
Because Sadie and I are quite involved, and it is the best way to have the next level in real life BFF experience with us. So we invite you to join. The beginning of the month is the best time to join, and definitely consider upgrading to the Coven tier. You get to join a live Zoom call with us the last Wednesday of every month. Each month has a different theme that is magical and exciting. And last month we had an intuition, opening your third eye, connecting with your spirit guides, and it was sensational. So stay tuned for what this month's is going to be. You're going to love it.
And as always, we have our Intuitive Magic Oracle deck available. We have really cute stickers now. We have a really cute sticker pack that also comes with a little postcard that we autographed just for you.
Yes.
And really cute hats and more. So check out our cute little merch shop. And make sure you're following us on Instagram at Goddess Hangs. Mine is at I am Sadie Olson.
I'm at Juliet.Piper.
You can check out our website, goddesshangs.com. And anything else?
I think that's it for today.
I think that's it. Thank you all for listening. Everyone, make sure you go follow Melinda, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.